Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm gonna show you 4 designs for honey farms, 2 for honey bottles and 2 for honeycombs. And first I'm gonna show the designs and talk a little about the motivation behind each design and the advantages and disadvantages of each design. And also I'm gonna leave a world download. So if you guys want to check closer on some of the other designs, you can check. Okay, so this is the first design and it is for honeycombs. That's why we are using shears here. And the motivation behind this design and the next one that I'm gonna show was to try to not put or to put the least amount of blocks other than the bee nest on above the grass, because then you can make a decoration around it. And these two designs here are the designs I made in my single player world. So I'm gonna put an image right now of what I built in my single player world, so you can see that you can kind of use a decoration that you want for that, because if you look at the other kind of designs, there's always like observers and all that stuff on top of the nests, and this one actually has the dispensers here. But what I did in my survival world, I did those kind of log things that it's pretty much standard decoration. I guess everyone does this, right? To hide the dispensers, and then everything else you can do whatever you want. This glass here is only so the bees doesn't escape, but yeah, you can do like a greenhouse, a glass house, or something like that, like I did in my world. Yeah, and how it works. So here we have the dispenser pointing to the hive, and here we have a hopper that gets the items in a chest where the items goes to. And under the dispenser we have a block, and then another block with a torch, and then some target blocks with torches. And here we have a clock, and this one here activates at sunrise. So let me show you guys. It will activate. So it activates once every day. So that gives us 9 to 18 honeycomb per hour per hive, because uh, the Minecraft day has between 10 and 20 minutes. That depends if you don't sleep or sleep. So yeah, it's not the most efficient farm, but uh, in my case I built in my spawn chunks, so it generates enough for my needs, I guess. Okay, so the second design, it's the same motivation to have nothing above the grass. And these blocks here you can also place grass if you want for your decoration. And this glass here is just so the bees doesn't escape, but uh, you don't need this if you have another decoration around it. And this one is for honey bottles, and it uses similar clock. So here you can use this clock too, but here I'm using another clock, so you have a daylight sensor in the night mode, and this will activate at sunset. So you can choose either clock if you want to activate at sunset or at sunrise, or you can even use another kind of clocks like a hopper clock and all of that. And usually it takes about 5 to 6 minutes to get a full hive with honey. So you can kind of use a faster clock, but in this design here that we use shears, doesn't really matter if you activate and that's not ready yet to collect. But in this one, if you do activate and it's not ready to collect, you will lose one glass bottle. It's not too much of a big deal, but just to inform you guys if you are planning on using another kind of clock. But one thing important about this design is that you always need one uh, slot in the dispenser uh, empty, because when the dispenser activates, it will collect the honey and will put a honey bottle here that will get collected by this item filter here and goes to this chest. And this design with this daylight sensor clock gives you 3 to 6 honey bottles per hour per hive. This third design here is a honeycomb design, and it produces about 37-38 honeycomb per hour per hive. And these results are made in the end, because if you build this in the overworld, the bees won't come out if it's raining or if it's night time, so it will produce less in the overworld. So you have to build this in the end or in the nether. Here this has 8 hives, this model, and 8 hives produce about 300 honeycomb per hour. That's 75 of these honeycomb blocks per hour, or 100 hives per hour, because you need 3 honeycomb to craft these hives. Yeah, so this is very simple. Here we just have a minecart going back and forth, and you don't really need to stop in here to unload the items, because it's not gonna have too many items at a time, and the items just go here. And how you build it is you put the hive facing this way, and here is the dispenser, and you do need a block down here because otherwise the honeycombs can get down here when the dispenser activates. And this is an observer observing the hive, and it powers this block that powers all 8 of the dispensers. And you might be thinking that this is kind of laggy because it activates all the dispensers all the time and uses headstone dust. And yeah, but there is one advantage about this, that is because sometimes the honey sometimes the hive get to level 5, to the last level of honey, or it's ready to collect, but the dispenser doesn't activate because you are unloading the chunks or something like that. That's very common to happen in pretty much all designs. So this makes less of a chance of that happening, because if it does happen, then when another of the dispensers or another of the hives gets an update, and it will power the hive that was unloaded, let's say. So before I show the last design of this video, first I want to talk about the motivation behind this design. So here is a design by Mango. It's very compact, it's simple, easy to build, but there is one problem with this design and pretty much every other design that you can find out there. Mango's video, he uses a chest here where you put the empty bottles, and then it goes in this hopper line and fill the hoppers and the dispensers. So for each hive, you're gonna have one dispenser and two hoppers full of glass bottles. So that is 19 stacks per hive. That is a lot. If you have a witch farm that drops glass bottles. But yeah, even if you have some of those, it can be very expensive to have 19 stacks of honey bottles per hive if you are building a huge farm. So that's the motivation behind this design here. So in this design we can check the dispensers down here, and you can see that we have about one stack or even less in each dispenser. And the reason for that is that like I said, one hive gets full every 5 or 6 minutes. So you're gonna use about 12 bottles per hour. So one uh, stack of glass bottles could last for 5 hours or so. So yeah, and so you don't really need a lot of glass bottles, because if you let's say you are going to AFK for 10 hours, then you can just put 2 stacks in each dispenser and you're gonna be fine, which is way better than have to put 8 or 19 stacks in each dispenser. So yeah, the idea behind this design is to use less glass bottles. And also, uh, when you craft the Honeycomb blocks, you get the glass bottles back. So you can recycle the bottles, you can put them back here and reuse them. So how this design works is here we have the dispenser and it's point upwards uh, to the hive, and what happens here is every time the hive changes the honey level, this observer detects and power this line of rails, and then this observer observes the rails getting powered, and this observer observes that observer and powers this block that powers the dispenser. But like I said, when we are using glass bottles, when the dispenser gets powered and the hive is not full, it will dispense the glass bottle. But that's why we have these hoppers behind here. So when this dispenser dispenses the glass bottle, I think you saw that, but sorry, really fast. The glass bottle gets expelled here and gets picked up by this hopper and ends back here. So let me try to demonstrate this putting the glass bottles here, and after one update in the hive, the glass bottle will come, I think, in the first slot. Yeah, so that happened. Yeah, so that's the idea. And also, like the other designs, pretty much all designs, uh, the the hive can get stuck in the last level, and then it won't update, and these are individual activated, so uh, different from that design that activates all dispensers, so it won't activate anymore. So that's why we have this. So every time you come to your farm, you press this button, because those stuck hives happens when you unload chunks. So if you have this button to press every time you come to your farm, then everything's gonna be fine. And when the hive is full and the dispenser fires, it will get a honey bottle that will get to one of these empty slots. So here you need one empty slot at least, so the maximum amount of glass bottles you can have here is 8 stacks, because you really need one empty slot for the honey bottle to go. And then this minecart here will collect the honey bottles, because you can see it has some unstackable items here and honey bottles here. And when the minecart passes on this detector rail, the comparator here that is powering this torch and getting also powered by the torch, it will only emit a signal when the minecart is full. Let's simulate this by putting, uh, let's put 2 here. So see, and then it's unpowered this block and unlock the hopper and gets the honey bottles here. And on top here we have another minecart that also will get activated when it's full. And yeah, you can put your empty bottles there. So yeah, when you craft your honey blocks, you get the bottles back, and you can put here. And in this case, you can also use this holes in the for less slot here for any unstackable item, and put your glass bottles here. And when it gets full, it will go there and just do uh, one travel there. So yeah, and when you get more bottles here, it will go until it empties the chest there. But yeah, you have to be careful because it might unload one of those other items. So uh, if you have more than 8 hives, you might want to, instead of doing unstackable items here, doing all honey bottles or all empty glass bottles. And the reason we do 8 hives here is because if you do more than that uh, together, the bees starts pathfinding to the corners of the farm, and they don't populate the hives in the middle of the farm. So that's why we have only 8 hives per model. But you can build several models, one next to another, with a block here separating them. And yeah, it's also important in all designs to have a block uh, around the hive here, so the bottles don't get dispensed here. So another important thing about this design is that it is directional, so you can build it facing west or facing north, looking here at the honeycombs or the hives. Because if we look here, so we have a stack of glass bottles here. When we press the button, the bottle gets to the hopper and gets back here. And same thing in this direction here. But when we are talking about east, the bottle gets dispensed this way, and south it also gets dispensed this way, so it doesn't get collected by the hopper. So you have to build this facing west or north. Like this one here is facing west. That's why the bottles go to the hopper. So now we are in the end, and I built the honeycomb design here. And you see that we have a block here separating them. So we have 8 models here, and each model has 8 hives, so it's a total of 64 hives, but you can rebuild this here, 64 more, 64 more, until you are satisfied, I guess. So you remember that each model of this produces 300 honeycomb per hour. So about 75 blocks, honeycomb blocks per hour. So if you need a lot of blocks, you can build this several times, which I did in my multiplayer series. You can check it out because I had to build a lot of stuff with that blocks. And here we have the button there to reset and some repeaters here, but this is very rare that you're gonna need to reset, because like I said, when one activates it powers all 8 here, so you might don't wanna do this for this honeycomb design. And here we have the minecart collecting all the honeycombs, and you might want to have more hoppers here, because as you saw, the minecart is full. And here we have design with 8 models for the honey bottles farm. So here you can see I have the minecart that gets the bottles, and for this design we have 64 hives, so you need at least 2 stacks of honey of glass bottles here, because it gives 64 when it goes and 64 when it comes back. So yeah, don't recommend using unstackable items here, or if you are going to use it, use 2 maximum, because sometimes the hoppers get with more than 1 glass bottle, and that can mean that the hopper will get one of the unstackable items if you don't have many glass bottles. And here we have the button to update all the hives in case you need. Just connect them with uh, some repeaters. And the minecart here is the same thing, it compares when it's full, but here I'm using 2 hoppers. You might want to have more, but I highly recommend, if you are building a bunch of these models, don't use more than 8 models together here with the same minecart, because that can fill up the minecart too fast, so it doesn't keep up with the honey bottles. But yeah guys, that's it for today. I hope you guys liked the tutorial and learned more about bees and honey farms. And don't forget to leave a like and leave a comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.